Okay, we're about ready to start. So, my name is Roland. I'm on Bolero. This is my new friend David. David is on Bliss too, and David's going to talk to us about the dismasting ceremony on his yacht. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to just introduce David. David, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your boat, who you are, where you're from?
I'm from Northern Ontario, Canada. My boat its port was North Channel of Lake Huron, up Blind River. I left port in 2013 and ended up here in 2014. Yeah. So I've been sailing approximately as long, probably another year. I did some racing and stuff and crewing for people to learn, and then I bought Bliss too, and that's my first boat and the one I still have.
And what kind of boat is it? How long and age, etc.?
It's a 1977 CNC 38. It's a racer cruiser. It's not the landfall. It's a good sailing boat. Draws 6 feet. It's got a fin keel.
Okay, maybe you can tell us, just so people can understand when we tell your story about what happened and how you solved the problem. What kind of person are you? Are you a hands-on guy, a handy guy, or what's your background?
I'm a power lineman by trade, so I will climb poles and towers and lots of rigging experience and stuff. So rigging isn't new to me. Rope blocks, knots. That's why I didn't sit in on a knot thing. So I did that for 35 years and semi-retired and went sailing.
And so last week you told me you had some guests on board and you want to take them out for a little day cruise. Is that right?
Yeah, it wasn't a day cruise, actually. I'm also mechanically inclined, and I had the engine out and the transmission apart. We had bearing go in the transmission last time I was down here. And the one guy's a helicopter pilot mechanic, and he's my brother came down. They came from the Yukon Territory, 3 of them. And we're just going to get it back together, get the engine in, and we're going to spend a week up at the Exumas up to Wardour Wells and then come back. And 7 days ago, we left here, and the motor is running good, transmission, everything's fine. Yeah.
So these guys came from the Yukon in the far north of Canada, where it's very cold. Right?
Yeah, the Yukon Territory, they were checking back home. It was 45 below there, and they were laughing at their wives. Yeah. Yeah. So it was, we don't get to see each other too often, my brother and I, because we live so far apart, and this was going to be the epic trip. And go out and catch some fish, and it was their first time down here, and they loved it, by the way, even with our trip getting messed up the way it did. So, yeah.
So let me get this straight. You got your family from the very far north, thousands of miles away, come down. They're going to come down for a trip of a lifetime. One time in the North Bay of the Bahamas, you're going to take them sailing on the yacht of your dreams, your CNC. You're going out. Where'd you go? Just to Exuma Sound, right?
Yeah, we left harbor here, and this was the 7 days of fun after the work on the boat. And we got through Conch Cut. Once we get off the wall, I've been down here for a while, and I do pretty good fishing out there. So we were just sailing along and dragging some fishing lines, and we were out about 12 miles out by Emerald Bay, out from Sandals Resort, and at about 2,500, 3,000 feet of water.
Under sail, fishing lines out, and then what happened?
Well, Matt, the helicopter pilot, was at the helm, so I blame him. I was down below getting something, maybe a beer. I don't know if I was getting a snack. I don't remember at the time, but I just heard a crack. That's all I heard. And I stuck my head up, and the 3 guys are in the cockpit. And I'm like, what happened? They said, we lost the mast. And I turned around, and it was gone. Everything was in the water off the port side. And it was just a shock. Like, there's nothing it was a gentle sail, 15 knots of wind. We were fishing. We were probably doing 5.5 knots, maybe 6. Nothing hard on the rigging. It's just totally unexpected. All the stories I've read before about demasting or dismasting were in storms and bad stuff, and this was just a nice sunny day and just sailing along.
So the whole business, sails, jib, main, the whole mast just snapped right off and all fell off into the sea.
Yeah, the starboard side shrouds were not attached anymore, so that's what broke. And it went over on the port side. The mast, boom, mainsail, jib sail was down in the ocean. It was banging up against the boat. My boat has rod rigging, not stranded cable. The rod rigging was trying to rip the solar panels off, rip the bimini, because everything's down in the water, trying to tear it off. There was good chop and good waves out there, so it wasn't really comfortable.
Was the rod rigging original?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was 1971.
Yeah, I had it checked in Mobile, Alabama by a rigging guy, and went through everything. The rod rigging isn't what failed, though.
We're going to save the questions at the end. Thank you. So, your first reaction was what?
Well, we were sailing, so we didn't have the engine running. So my first reaction is safety. That's it. Just I went right back down below, and I carry a set of bolt cutters because in an emergency, that's what they're for. I got that and a serrated knife and came back up on deck, and I cut the lines, anything that was rope or the sails where they attached to the the furling at the front and stuff like that with the serrated knife. And then I went around with the bolt cutters and cut my rigging free and just let it all go before it did any more damage. There was no way I could have, in order to save anything, I would have had to put somebody in the water, and in those conditions, it would have been a dumb thing to do, as much as I hated letting everything go without salvaging anything. Yeah.
So this is the tool you used.
That's it, set of bolt cutters. And I can tell you those are almost too small. Yeah, I've been carrying those. That's the first time I've had to use them on the boat. They've been on there since 2012. Yeah, but I knew exactly where they were, and I keep them handy. Yeah.
So you knew where they were. They're an 18-inch bolt cutter. They're almost too small. He said, what would you recommend instead?
Next size up.
The 19-inch? Just get one bigger than you actually think you need. Okay, so this was able to cut through the cables, or what did you actually cut with this?
Well, the rod rigging is solid rod, and that's what I cut. The front furling isn't solid rod, though, and the furling aluminum had sheared open where it went over the lifelines and that. So I was able to get the tip of the bolt cutters in there and then just cut that cable that way. Yeah.
How long did all this take to cut it loose?
Hours, and no, it took, it seemed like a while, but realistically, under 5 minutes, everything was free of the boat, and I made sure everything got away, there was no more lines in the water, and then we fired up the engine to get our steerage back under control.
Very important. Don't fire up the engine until everything is clear, right? He actually had a problem, but he was smart about the way he solved it, right? A lot of us might have thought, oh, start the engine, get the boat, do something, but don't. We don't want to do that. We want to get everything clear. You don't want wire rigging or lines in the prop or on the shaft, and you got a second problem. You said you didn't want to send anybody into the water to try and save anything. Did it go through your mind to maybe cut some stuff off and try and save anything, or were you just in mood of throw the stuff overboard?
The good thing was, and like I said, one of the guys is a helicopter pilot, so he doesn't have a panic button. I work with live electricity all the time, barehanded up to 550,000 volts. I don't have a panic button, and everybody kept calm, which was really, really important. And I did just a quick visual survey, and it wasn't worth it. My sails were old anyway, and I was actually thinking of replacing them this year, so I wasn't really concerned about the sails. The mast was broke, and what was left? The boom and some ropes and the rigging. So it was a no-brainer for me just to let it go.
So nothing got saved. You were up there with the bolt cutters. You said you cut through everything pretty quick. Now, how many people have bolt cutters on their boat? This size? Like bigger, okay, bigger. Now, I don't have any bolt cutters. I'm thinking, what can I do anything with a hacksaw? Or what would I do if I did? What would you do if you did not have the bolt cutters?
That would have been really, really difficult with cotter pins to get them out. Everything's reefed over now, and every wave is catching all the sail that your wind was catching previously, and it was pulling really, really hard on it. I don't think that would have been an option. Honestly, the hacksaw, I know exactly where it is, but I don't use it very often. And when I looked at it after, the blade's kind of rusty. If you had an angle grinder maybe, or a zip cutter or something, but bolt cutters is really the answer. I don't think anything faster or stronger, and it's a reliable tool that you can leave it sit for years and it still works, Yeah.
I think I'm adding a set of bolt cutters to my Christmas list or my boat shopping list. So, What happened after you set everything free? Did it just sink immediately to the bottom, or did it kind of float around and you looked at it?
I expected to see it floating around, but it just slowly drifted down out of sight, just straight down. Yeah, with all the lines and the sails disappearing. Yeah.
All gone, just like that. So, why do you think this happened? And could you have done anything to prevent it? You mentioned earlier you had your rig inspected before you left Mobile, Alabama. Is it something they could have detected, or something you should have had under maintenance, or what?
Everything's good in hindsight, eh? So, yeah, I could have done lots, probably. This is what broke. There's 2 on each side, port and starboard, and this is normally about this long. So you have, this is your turnbuckle threaded rod. On this, there is, and it's gone, and I should have took one of the other ones off to show you, but right at this location, there is a square piece of stainless steel, and that's how you wrench and tune it. This broke about a thread inside that, and the other one did as well. So there's no way I could have seen that. Was it fatigue? There's no side tension on that. It's just linear tension. I work on pulls and that were up for 60 years, and the bolts never had issues on the guy wires or anything like that. Why this happened, I have no idea. All I know is maybe when they pressed that piece on, maybe they fatigued it. It was a time bomb anyway, and as far as looking at it, to say, oh, I got to change that, would have been impossible. So I don't know what else to say. Yeah.
So if you're going to do your rigging, you probably would recommend getting the turnbuckles and bolts done as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Wow. That just increases it by another boat unit and went from $5,000 to $6,000. Okay, well, that was, needless to say, a big surprise for you, David.
I should have said, actually, when I first looked at this, there was some fresh metal. It doesn't look like that right now, but there was some fresh metal. You could see the break around the perimeter of it, but the inside had actually had corrosion in there, so it was cracked. It was ready to go. Yeah.
And your boat is 19...
X-ray Magnaflux.
Yeah. It's expensive. Nobody does it.
Your boat's built in 1977, so this is not a Chinese piece of metal or something like this, right?
No, the boat was built in Canada on Niagara and the Lakes. CNCs were known, I don't know, I'm sure lots of people know about CNCs. They took the racing industry by storm when they created these boats. The rod rigging, and like I said, I had a guy inspect it, but I was there as well, top to bottom. I figured we'll go through the spreaders. There would be lots of wear. It was good. It looked great. In fact, I would have kept the rod rigging had I known in hindsight and just changed those. Those were the weak links, yeah.
Wow. So after this all happened, 5 minutes to cut it all loose, and then you fired up your motor, and what's going through your head?
Well, I'm upset at myself. These guys came from a long distance away to have a good trip, and the trip was done.
They had a lot of excitement there.
They did. They experienced something that most people don't want to experience. But so I asked them, we're under motor. I said, but it was rough enough out there, and when you lose your sails, the boat's flip-flopping around. Yeah, the sails steady the boat, right? So it was uncomfortable, and I said, you guys want to keep going? I got a motor. I said, but no, I gave them the option, but I'm glad they made the decision they did, and we came back the 10 miles through Concut, and I think we had a few beer that night. Yeah.
I think so. I was sitting here in the anchorage, and I watched you come in, and I thought, oh, look at that guy. Who would be driving a boat like that all the way from Florida or whatever without any sails and without even the courtesy of chopping off the rest of the mast? Maybe he didn't have any money or something. Then I found out you got dismasted. It was a terrible story. I was really surprised.
Another thing, too, like your radio, my antenna's on the top of the mast. It's in my brain right now to carry a spare antenna and maybe a coaxial cable. The handheld, it was a Standard Horizon submersible. I paid a lot of money for it. It wasn't all that old. And when I got to the boat this year, the speaker on it had some corrosion. I took it all apart because it would transmit but not receive. So I was left without a radio as well. Like, I do have a personal emergency locating beacon and stuff like that. There was no emergency here. That's why there was no pan, no nothing. I can talk to certain people in the harbor because you called me, but it has to be very, very close without the antenna. So something to think about too. You lose your mast, you lose a lot. Like.
Okay, you're getting to be very expensive there, David. Now I got to buy some bolt cutters and I got to buy a spare antenna. My boat's already very full, but that's a good tip. So, you think is this covered by insurance, or you're just on your own on this?
No, I carried insurance for a few years and then I let it go because of the age of my boat. Not wanting to take it back to the States and stuff like that every year. I leave it in Cavalli House. It's been down here. I'd go back to Florida after the cruising permit renewals expire and then come back here, but that's it. So the boat's been here 6 years, and no, I let the insurance go. Just hardly was worth it for what they were charging. Yeah.
So what's your next plan? I mean, are you going to, I see there's a mast laying back here in the sand. Are you going to shop around the island for a new mast, or fly one in, or call it a day, do something different, or what?
That's a really good question. I measured that mast. It's too short.
It's the shortest match here.
Yeah. As tragic as it was, Dorian hit, as you guys know, up there. So there's lots of people telling me, people are helping me out, trying to make contact with people up there or find stuff for me. It looks pretty positive. Dave Young over at Cavalli House and Ingrid and Gary have contacts with the Abacos and Marsh Harbor area. I know a couple of people up there. I just haven't been able to get a hold of them yet. They are stripping all the hurricane boats and they're keeping the parts for salvage. So there is a really good chance I'll be able to get mast and boom is what I'm looking for. From there, and then the rigging and all that, I'll just have shipped in if I can't get it locally. It looks positive, but I don't know yet.
Okay, so I don't have a spare mast or boom on my boat. I don't think anybody else does either. But is there some way that maybe we as a community can help you?
No, I appreciate advice anytime somebody can give it. And if you got any advice on this, I'll take it. If you know where there's a mast, rigging, stuff like that. I expect I got to leave tomorrow. I'm flying back out, and I'm back in 7 days, and then here till mid-March. So I'll have time to, I'm sure, get something together. Hopefully something pops up. But if anybody knows contact information, something I want to put my boat back together is really what I want to do and get out sailing. I love it. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a big hand for David. Thank you very much for sharing, David. Thank you. Stay tuned. We're going to get some questions. We're going to open up for questions. If somebody's got questions, just shout out your question. I'll repeat it, and then we'll get David to go. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I want to know what actually let go besides that turnbuckle. Is that the full cause of everything? Was the turnbuckle?
Doug wants to know, did anything else let go besides the turnbuckle, or was it only the turnbuckle?
That's the starboard side turnbuckle that I sent out. There's two of them. They both let go exactly the same place, right where that pressed fitting is for wrenching.
So the lowers and the uppers went at the same time?
No, just sheared right. Yeah, so both shrouds went.
The upper and the other was the lower.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was down below, so I didn't see if one broke and then the other. But the question was what exactly let go or what all broke, and it was just those two threaded rods on the turnbuckle. Everything else was reefed over down in the ocean, and nothing else let go. Like those other ones, if they were fatigued the same, should have let go because they were really torqued. Yeah, the mast broke approximately or right at where the boom attaches. So it's about 4 or 5 feet up from the deck. Yeah.
The question is, has the boat always been in salt water, or was it freshwater from Canada first? Give us a little history on the boat.
2013, I hit the salt water in Gulf of Mexico. I came down the Mississippi River system, Kentucky Lakes and around, and then I was right Gulf of Mexico.
After that, it was in the Great Lakes.
Great Lakes all the time,
Oh,
sorry. In fact, the guy who got the boat off years ago was on the Canadian Olympic sailing team. And I didn't know a lot about boats, and I just knew that this boat was for sale, and if he had it, it had to be a good one, right? He actually stored it took the mast off every year and put that boat inside a building every winter. So it was well looked after. Yeah.
You could say it was well looked after or it was heavily used.
Yeah.
One or the other. Okay, thank you, David. Let's get a round up. And if you have any further questions for David, just come and see him. We got a couple of